We'll call the work session to order at 5:02 p.m. and we're just going to do budget review. Mike Hoffmeister is here as well as Wayne, but I did the budget because they weren't here when we did the budget. So you guys jump in anytime. So for the building operations, and we're just going to go to 265 then. In 2019, the building operations superintendent, which is Wayne, is 100% funded in the fund. Prior years, the position was split between two funds, which was Parks and Grounds superintendent. And after 2008, we combined them all. But there's been no major changes, a slight decrease of 2.1%, and there's under salary permanent wages, the narrative will be corrected to 2 full-time custodians instead of 3. And then we'll remove 1 who floats between buildings. Those are some small corrections that we'll make. I don't know if there's not a lot of change to this budget, but if people have questions on it, can answer them. It's really not a lot different than last year. One of the equipment items, which is like a $10,000 purchase that we put in there, was for a new lift to be able to reach higher places. But that's the only major equipment that we put in there. Total budget, $678,853, a slight decrease from last year. No? It's pretty, this one, like, these are kind of straightforward. No? All right. The next one is Parks and Grounds. And this, like the previous position, the public service superintendent was split between 2 positions, building operations, and in 2019, we actually budgeted for that position. It has not been filled yet. There's no major changes, decrease of 14%, and a major purchase request is for Toro Groundmaster mowers. There is discussion about, and of course anything that happens comes back to the board, but for the positions, there's discussion about the possibility of having 2 laborers and 2 crew leaders and a weekend laborer to work the parks and grounds. Currently, we don't have that. We have a seasonal person that kind of empties the trash, cleans out the toilets and stuff. So since Mike has been here, and I have to agree that it would be better if we had someone on the weekend that can actually take care of those duties, as opposed to a seasonal that works 4 hours and no one is here. He's also the community center. He's looking at the same thing, correct, Mike? Yeah, trying to have weekend presence.
Madam Chair.
Someone needs help, but that'll all come back to the board if it happens. Stan?
Those would be our employees then, and that season will be full-time?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. I'm in support of that, 100%.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So would that be somebody working
Tuesday.
Oh, they're working Tuesday through.
Sunday, or Saturday, or Wednesday through Sunday is a preferred, because our park, and that's only during the season, because when the parks are open and,
Parks are open, okay.
yeah. And that still has to go through HR and the union and everything, but I think it's time to have someone on the weekend.
Oh, I see.
That's the only, change from the narrative that could happen, and it would come back here. Any purchases come back here as well, so. Questions or comments? It's pretty self-explanatory, but, no? Y'all have any questions on this one? No? The Parks Fund is the smallest fund that we have, and the only change is that, and this came out of the discussion Monica and the board had about increasing the per meeting, not only for our park commissioners, but for all of our boards and commissions. They have not been adjusted, I don't think, ever. I mean, it was adjusted down during the downturn, and then we brought them up, but we haven't really looked at increasing. So for the park commissioners, it would go from 50 to 75.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think we discussed that last year, if I'm not mistaken, like revisiting the park commissioners and the
Yes.
zoning and planning.
Yeah, Monica had brought it as one of the agenda item at one time, but we had talked about,
Yeah.
reviewing it and increasing it. So I put in a $25 increase from 50 to
For
75.
the park commissioners. only.
I actually, when Mike Radzik was here, we put it in the planning commission as well as a board of review, all the boards and commissions, yeah.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just wanted to say, excuse me, I just want to say thank you for putting in those increases. I think they'll be appreciated for all of the boards. So I appreciate it. So thank you. And I know I had brought that forward last year, so thanks.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just one last comment is, just looking at our capital improvement plan, I think all of those look great, but I do really strongly suggest that eventually we look at the North Bay Park and the walkway around it, because it's such a great asset to our community, and people love walking on the lake, but it's
Needs
bad.
improvement.
It does. And I think it's going to cost a lot to fix, so I feel like it might be even wise to just replace sections at a time of the board. But I'm not an engineer, so I don't know
Okay.
that. But it definitely needs some attention.
Yeah, Karen, you and I were supposed to walk.
I wonder if we could get some sort of grant money because it's on the water.
The grant actually built it, so maybe there could be the maintenance, but it's what,
I don't
it has to
even
be
know
what,
how
25,
much it
30
would
years
cost.
old? It's been
Do you remember-ish how much it was when you paid for it?
what, the cost? Mm-hmm. Millions, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was millions of dollars on grant dollars that we received. MDNR or,
Can't use the trust fund because it has to be for buildings themselves, I don't think, but we could explore that. I think in the meantime, this is a good time probably to get a assessment and even maybe get somebody out there to tell us what it would cost to replace the ones that need replacing. I know that one that goes down in the water, it needs a long-term fix because there's a path before you get to the big,
Yep.
and it always gets covered underwater and it always rots out.
And
Maybe put a bridge in or
I think
something.
we've replaced some of
we
them.
tried
Get
to.
it out of the water.
but it didn't.
Yeah, we probably just need a
Yeah.
bridge there or something.
And I'm not saying that doesn't need to be done, but mostly the actual in the standing water. I don't think we've ever repaired or replaced any of those boards.
I think they have replaced them, Mike, and yeah, I know they've replaced them, but I don't know how often. Would you please go to the microphone? The person who does the minutes, they are not in this room, so we want to help her out. Mike, you got to give your name too.
Okay. Mike Hoffmeister, Residential Services Director. To your point, Rich Ellsworth on the park maintenance team has expressed his concern out there as well, specifically where if you turn right, you know how you can go up the stairs to the boardwalk to shoot south. I think that's an area of concern. So it's on our list for repairs, but to Karen's point, we can certainly get someone out there to start assessing it further.
Thank you.
While you're at the mic, Madam Chair. The other thing that you might want to look at over by, I don't know which pavilion is the number, but over at Fort Lake Park, there's the one that's over by Schooner Cove. There's
Okay.
a small bridge that goes over there, and it is beginning to rot in certain places.
Okay.
Yep, so you might want to look at that one too.
Very
I don't
good.
know if it was, it may have been already on your list.
That one was not. I will add that to my
Okay.
list.
Okay.
Great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I do know the Park Commission, we have a company that actually does safety inspections of every park for equipment. And the Park Commission was, so we've replaced and repaired all of the like play equipment to make sure it's safe. So now it's time to get in. We also have the tennis courts at one of
Yes.
we have for next year. And we're getting estimates for the other two as well. And, I mean, the good news is, well, it's time to invest in them again, and we can do it now. So I agree 100%. So we'll have a
Yeah, you'll
capital
see.
improvement plan. and-
That's right. So you'll see on the last page of that Parks and Grounds budget, there's another Excel doc with a list of capital improvements that could be down the line. But the two that we're talking about now, we can have added to that.
Madam Chair, one more question.
Yes.
The person that's allocated to come in on the weekends, would that also help with revenue? Are they going to be working any of the gates or?
So
Or
I
just
think
a
the idea
seasonal
behind
staff?
that was to help with general park maintenance
Okay.
and shelter rentals and events that
Okay.
are happening in the parks, trash pickup, bathroom cleaning,
Okay.
some of the basic stuff that could be done during the weekends to ensure our parks aren't waiting till Monday to be touched. And I think that's a huge aspect to the public.
Yeah,
Where if there's a party on Saturday and it gets trashed or ruined, we can have it done either Saturday or even Sunday before other stuff happens on Sunday.
yeah, that's a good idea because sometimes when people use the community parks, they leave the trash out.
Correct.
If it's a Saturday, and sometimes that trash has been
Sits till
damaged.
Monday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this, no
So
one's
it's more
fault,
of
but-
a service than it is a revenue generator.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right, yeah. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And plus our residents, our parks, I think it's probably one of our greater assets that we have in the township. And through the master plan process, our residents acknowledge that they love the fact that we have so many parks. Yes.
I just had, this really isn't a budget, but I know if I don't say it, I'll forget it. So maybe you could put on your list, one of the issues that, especially since your background is in this area, one of the issues always comes up is how can we get the bathrooms open? And staff is one of them closed because they're dirty. Our residents have to go pee in the fields because, and we pay the money for, so I don't know if you have any ideas or solutions to
Yeah,
that.
so
but you
that's
don't
one of
have to
the-
an- You don't necessarily have to answer it now, Mike, but if just,
Sure.
I know it's ongoing.
Yep. And I know that's one of the challenges we have with staff leaving, for school, August, September, ensuring those bathrooms get locked, gates get locked, reopen in a day. So that's something that I will write down and that we can study further for staff alignment or what have you.
And I don't know, I know Pittsfield uses porta-johns all year, like they keep those open. And I don't know if
Yeah.
that's appropriate since we've paid money for, but maybe there's another solution.
Sure.
Oh, I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
That they have police services
sorry.
that closes
I'm
their
sorry.
gates. I know
Yeah.
we have rangers that do ours, but probably,
Yeah. when I was calling about, just to see what other parks did, Pittsfield, they have like a part of their police service, they like stop at night and lock the gates on their runs, which I don't know if I think is appropriate, but that's just a point of
Yeah.
information.
Lots of park systems have park rangers.
Right.
That have different
Except we don't have enough or
authorities.
something.
Right. It's a different
So-
type of authority. And so something we can study going further.
And then there's other, like, Ford Heritage that doesn't have bathroom
Bathrooms.
facilities,
Correct.
Yeah,
And so they do
do you-
have porta-johns, but
yeah, Madam Chair. Even like Ford Heritage Park, to talk about that, and I don't mean to get off on a tangent, but like, you guys started it. I love our parks, to be clear, but I want to be able to use our parks, and I think our residents want to be able to use our parks all year. Like, I mean, you know, everyone in this room knows that everyone in Michigan needs to walk a little more, get outside a little more, do a little more. But in the, like, later fall and even in winter or early spring when it starts to get nice out, our gates, especially at Fort Heritage, are closed. So I constantly hear from everyone at my daycare, all the moms and dads, about how they have to, like, either park out on the street at Textile or park in the neighborhood to get back there, and it's all because we lock it. And I know that supposedly that came from some safety concerns, but I think that it's such a great asset, and we saw that in our master plan, that it's such a great thing. It's one of our top-rated parks, but we close it half the year. So that's my soapbox.
Understood. Thank you.
Madam Chair, which kind of gets to the second point. As it relates to, I know obviously temporary seasonal staff are seasonal, right? So they start at, right around May and they end right around, if I have it correct, the Labor Day. In order to keep the parks, certain parks open, well, maybe not for Heritage, because I don't believe that has a gate. I mean, it has a gate, but it doesn't have a pay. But in order to keep paid parks open, is there a possibility at least to do a cost-benefit analysis to see, if, adding the staff or keeping the staff or keeping some of the staff during, I guess you could say up until probably snow settles, which is pretty much December, January, and the amount of revenues that's estimated to come into the park, would it actually be a benefit?
Sure. That's
Okay.
something we can look at. I certainly know that temporary seasonal staff are tough to come by. And that's not just an Ypsilanti Township issue. I think that's a temporary seasonal issue across the board. And I know Robin, with her temporary seasonals at the Rangers and Gatehouses are tough. Parks and golf seasonals are down as well. So it's certainly something we can look at. It's just there's no guarantee to how long the seasonals can stay because a lot of them are going back to school or are coming and going quite often for their summer season.
Okay, thank you. The next is BSNR 212. So we are expecting the grant for the Connecting Communities, a Huron Street project for the path over I-94. And I know that it's not in the BSNR 2 budget right now, but I do know the tennis courts over in Burns, we authorized someone, so that'll be coming back to the board as well. And whatever, other capital improvements that we want in the parks, that can come back. So again, this is, it's line by line, so do people have specific questions on it?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just have to raise my annual concerns.
Yep.
And I know it's not going to change, but can we put some kind of plan in place? Because we are now looking at giving two of the funds another $700,000 plus this year with recreation and golf. And over the last 2 years, those two funds have taken 1.4 plus million out of the general fund that we could have used for those parks or those employees or other things. I'm not anti-recreation. I'm clearly not anti-golf. But I also know that the first responsibility of a trustee is to be a fiduciary. And I just don't feel like if we continue to do this, and I don't say anything, that I'm doing the job I was asked to do. So I know it's not going to change for this cycle, but there has to be another plan in place to do this, because as valuable as we would like to think or believe that recreation and golf is to this community, apparently it's not, because residents aren't using it and paying for it. And I'll take it even a step further, since I'm already out on a limb, I might as well break it. With all the issues that we've seen from the attorney going back and forth with the discussions about EMU and their sale and everything that's going on and their lack of transparency in what they're doing, at what point do we call in that 99-year lease and operate that facility where we might be able to generate some funds because they have a liquor license in place, they have banquet facilities and all those other things that might assist the golf course. So I know that's going way out on the limb, but at what point do we say enough is enough and we got to figure out a new way to do business for tomorrow?
No, that's fine, and this is staying consistent. And we did actually try to reduce a little bit the recreation, and then Green Oaks went up a little bit. So overall, Mike's specialty is recreation, and he has been focusing on that since he's been here. So, Mike, do you have anything to
Sure.
add?
Yeah, so I've spent a lot of time out at the golf course and the community center already, certainly 2.5 months in. So I'm still learning the operations and whatnot. But I can tell you that at the golf course, Kirk and Tim have already made some big-time changes out there. I do believe they are going to be coming to this board for recommendation on a liquor license, which could add a lot of value to Green Oaks Golf Course. I have also implemented internal study with the recreation program with the thoughts that this Board of Trustees is investing in the recreation department a little bit more than they may want to. So we're going to take a hard look internal about the programs we're offering, about the marketing. You know, marketing can be improved substantially. So there are some steps that we can take internally after we study ourselves a little bit, in hopes that we can kind of turn that around a little bit. So we're working on it, and I know the golf team have been working on it prior to my starting, but I'm really taking a hard look at the recreation department on that figure that you're taking a look at.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the goal is to increase the revenue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Provide alternative programming, summer camps, more facility rentals. It's a big picture. It's not an easy fix, but we're going to work on it.
Kirkwa?
I just wanted to say, I know that Kirk, he started the process, and then he jerked it off for the liquor thing. I'm not really sure why. It was on our work session at one time, then he pulled it. And then I kind of assisted him a little bit in going through that process. But I know one of the things that he's really focused on, which is his job, is to focus on golf. But we could actually get a liquor license for that whole complex, and that's what I really encourage him to do, because I think that if you look around for weddings and receptions, there's like nowhere. The only place in Ypsilanti Township are Marriott or well, it's now called back to the Washtenaw Country Club or something. They've changed the names, it's not Polo Fields. And then there's a few places like Union Halls, but everything is running out a year in advance, and we have like that huge side. I mean, you could hold like a 600-person wedding over there. It would need upgrades and stuff, you know, and I think the liquor license would help, but I really think that might, you know, especially if we move to it just being seniors at some time. The YMCA comes off and we keep that as a senior facility together with a rental facility. It kind of works perfect because the seniors only use it during the day, you know, and in the evenings, and it just has a lot. And people still rent it because it's a good deal, but some of the things that you always hear is like, oh, the bookshelf said, you know, the stuff's all in there, and it doesn't. It's not as beautiful as it could be just by cleaning it up just a little bit. So I would highly encourage you to take a look at moving us into like the rental. And I think the problem that Kirk had, there's not anyone on the side of the community center side that was taking the lead to help him on that. So if there could, maybe if we research that, and because, you know, there's all these rules about training and employees and all this stuff under their liquor license that we need to look at as a whole facility and not just the golf course, is in my opinion.
I agree. I agree. They're right next to each other, so they should, you know.
One license.
Right.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would concur with a lot of what Clerk Rose said, especially when we were talking about basically looking at the senior programming. If I have it correct, that's one of the top programs that's in the Recreation Center. And then also expanding the room rental for various things, including if you had a liquor license, that would definitely increase the amount of money. I believe that the community center would bring as a whole, and also basically increase the amount of money that golfing would bring. I know that we have put, money into improving the golf course. And I know it takes a minute in order to see when you do capital improvements, it takes at least 2 to 3 years to see if those capital improvements have actually paid off. If I had it correct, the amount of money that the golf course has generated is up from its very, very low when I started on the board in 2017. So it is, the improvements seem like they're taking shape, but I think they just need an extra incentive, I guess you could say extra kick if you want to go there, and I think that liquor license is probably it. You're going to end up getting more golfers that will come into the facility to play golf, and they're going to stay there, and if you combine that with some type of food item, they're probably going to stay a longer period of time. So I just, for me anyway, I don't want to give up on the golf course yet. I think if they're making improvements, I think we just need to look at solutions, that can enhance the improvements that have been made, and I think a liquor license is one of them. And I think for the community center, obviously, you had spoke about maybe even putting daycare or better yet, summer camp programs back inside the daycare and back inside the community center. I can definitely attest to when this summer camp program, which was more so related to, the downturn in the economy in 2008 and beyond, when the summer camp program was taken out for budgetary reasons, that definitely did hurt the community center. Because you had, families, obviously, dropping off kids, picking, looking at the programs that were available, and then maybe even wanting to afterwards sign their child up for a program. So if it's any way to bring that back, which I know is going to hit, again, the community center budget, but if there's any way to bring that back and it can be somewhat revenue generating, I think that would be a big enhancement for Ypsilanti Township. I know I don't have young kids right now, but I'm getting mailers from Ann Arbor about summer camp programs. So if we're looking at that long term, that means Ann Arbor is coming in, basically marketing our residents for summer camp programs, when those residents could be going to a summer camp program right here. So that's just my comments.
Great, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just want to make sure I heard that right, Mike. So we're thinking about a liquor license for the golf course, but yet we're thinking about bringing daycare or day camps back in with kids, and we're going to put those two in the same building?
So that's something that we'll have to look at.
Because my understanding is historically, that's why it was never there, because there was...
Sure. And so the summer
If I
camp.
could, maybe I could just clarify.
please.
Just for historical, yeah. So the daycare program that was inside the building with all the kids, it was like, it was so well attended and everyone benefited. The state of Michigan, someone filed a complaint against the township because we weren't certified daycare providers. And you had to have a ratio, and you had to have people to have the necessary certifications. So for what we were charging, we had to stop doing that. That's why we stopped doing the one. Now, not the summer programs that are in the parks, but the one that was wildly successful was the one inside the community center.
Yes.
So that's why we stopped doing that. And that happened, Art was here when that happened, and someone just, because we were competing with the private sector. And in order to do that, we had to have all these licenses in place. So that's why that was eliminated.
And just a point of clarification, I just want to make it clear, I'm not saying, have liquor at the same place you're having children doing day camp. Obviously, you can put times on that to make sure that it is not corresponding with any type of day camp program.
Correct. And you can coordinate that liquor license to just rentals and not selling it, and there's ways to do it.
And this is a community center, it's not a
Correct.
recreation center, and it's important that we distinguish between the two. We've always called it a rec center, but really, it's a community center.
Correct.
There's a lot of programs in there. WCC has a large presence there, and our seniors have a presence, but, not a lot of, they did add equipment for our seniors to work in a small space, and they love it. It's been a great addition. And kind of like North Bay Park, I think we have to invest in our facilities to make them, more attractive and more marketable and whatnot. But I think golf in general across the United States is declined in participation. I know Eagle Crest they hired someone to help get the youth involved, and we were supposed to do that as well. I'm not sure if we did, Stan, but that was part of
Well, I know,
the plan.
not to interrupt, but you're exactly correct. I don't disagree with anything anyone's saying, but you hit it on the head. Washtenaw Country Club or Polo Fields, whatever they call, is trying to be sold now. Pineview, as we all know, is trying to get out of the business. And Eagle Crest, as you just mentioned, is not doing well. So my question is, why are we continuing to beat our head against a brick wall? I've golfed at that course, Mike, since I was 10 years old. A liquor license in and of itself is not going to change the direction of where the course is. Much of the problem with it is it's a beautiful course. They do a good job running it. It's the location. It's difficult to get to if you're not from this area. That's why we don't see a lot of golfers coming there anymore. The days of us hosting events, outings, where we're going to use a liquor license are long gone because the auto factories are no longer here. Those leagues are no longer here. So golf in general is down, but it's even worse here because a lot of that customer base we had for all of those years is gone. I mean, there was a heyday when they paid for a lot of things in the township. That's gone, and again, I applaud you for trying, and I feel bad that I sound skeptical, but I'm not sure much is going to change in this industry. And so I'm just trying to find the best way we can still service people, but quit paying out $1.5 million over 2 years for 2 programs. That's all.
Yeah, and as far as Eagle Crest too, so we have met with them again, and we have a better understanding of what's going on there. They sold the conference center that was owned by EMU, and it helped fund Eagle Crest. They verbally committed to continue to fund it, and they're investing dollars in the master plan. So they're continuing to move forward. Now, long term, I don't know what's going to happen to Eagle Crest, but right now, they seem to have the same commitment and investment that they had originally into the golf course. They're going to do simulation.
Indoor simulators?
Yes. So they're looking to do things a little different, Stan, too, just like Green Oaks is. But yes, Clark.
And I think one of the things that the new owner had shared with us is that they're going to put a lot of money into the conference center to attract larger conferences, which, of course, the golf will be packages, I'm sure will be part of that. So I think they're trying to tie those together. I just know from experience, my husband ran the UAW Local 898 rentals for 20-plus years. They rent out their space, and it's nice and it's clean, but it only holds, the max is like, I think, tight, 300, and they rent that out for $900, and it's rented the entire year. It's rented Friday nights and Saturday nights, and Sundays it's a little bit reduced rate for like a shower or something like that. So I have no doubt in my mind if we could get our places up to, and it used to be Local 7035, which was huge on Michigan Ave, which that's no longer available. They rented that one out to, and so, I mean, there was a lot of other, and 849 used to rent theirs out. Well, those are closed too because of, the auto plants, and now one's turning it, I think they're both into churches now. So I know there's someone who's had to find spaces for people, my children's weddings. It's really, really, a tough, it's tough to find something. And people like places where they can bring in their own food because they can save the costs from you can get a caterer cheaper than you can go to the hotel. And so I think that's a serious, and I know Canton does a lot of that, and that they're very, very successful and have been for years, and on what they rent those for. So that might be a way to me, because I agree, you just can't keep pouring money into something that's losing. But if you had a revenue generator that could help keep up the rest of the facility, but at the same time could help offset, because we do that in some other parts, the township and in areas. One thing does really well, and for years, the golf course did that. They produced so much income that they help pay for a lot of our parks, a lot of amenities, a lot of things that you see and we take for granted were paid through golf revenues. And so I think that just following that same model, if we could get their liquor license and whether the daycare thing will work, whether we want to be in that business, we know there's a lot of money in it. And so maybe there's a part of the community center that we offset for a smaller daycare and
Camp.
stuff.
I think you're talking about camps, right?
Correct.
I actually was talking, because there used to be a day, it wasn't a full-fledged, because you could only sign up, I think, Lisa knows because she worked there, the kids' corner, I think, was only like half a days or 3 days a week. It wasn't full-time, but it was very, very well. But I mean, it might be an area that we can go back into and get the license and do everything right, because I do know that daycares make a lot of money, and so it might help offset the cost of the community center or help with the golf course. So there's other things I think we could do that will make money, that could help overall, especially now that we got you here, Mike.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just I mean, I don't really want to talk about the golf course, but since we're already there, and like I think that I've been very clear about over the years, just my opinion about the golf course is that it's just, we keep pouring money into it. And then meanwhile, and I know we're not reviewing this part of the budget tonight, but if you skip ahead to recreation, like we're decreasing everything that we're funding for dance and adult sport and youth sports, and it's because our enrollment's down. So to me, like, we can do the golf course thing and that's fine, but not if our other recreation departments and programs are like continually suffering and getting smaller, and we have to cancel classes because not enough people are signing up. It's just like a bigger, broader problem to me. And again, I know the golf course is in a separate fund, but we all know on this board that they're very hand in hand, they're tied together. So that's all I have to say about it for today.
One more comment, Madam Chair. I know with the new software that the rec department have, which is Civic Rec, if I have it correct.
That's correct.
It can be a way to enhance, to rent facilities online. Obviously, you still have to turn in paperwork or whatever else have you to be able to do that. But a lot of facility rentals around this area, you do have to call in order to try and facilitate that process. Like Clerk Rowe was saying, renting of facilities is honestly, it's very hard in this area. There's not a lot of space in order to do so. And so with Civic Rec, that's one of the enhancements of that software. So I would definitely try and, use that enhancement because that can give a competitive advantage for rentals for Ypsilanti Township versus having to call, various places in order to see if space is available. And that may help for revenues.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to 226, which is environmental services. So we finally have a residential services director, and it was filled in July of 2019. And it is budgeted 100% in this fund. In prior years, it was split between 226 and 101,762. There's a 2.5% contractual increase with waste management from July to December. So this is only an estimate. Our actual contracts are up this year. So we as a board have to decide, how do we want to handle it? Do you want to bid them out? Do you want to extend it again? Do you want to, we have to decide that as a board, and we did get copies. The city of Ypsilanti just did some bidding out. It's a smaller number of units, but so we have some information on that we're turning over to the new residential services director, but we have to get something in place for that. I figured worst case, we could extend it until December while we continue to bid it out, or however the board wants to handle that. So we budgeted a 2.5% increase for July to December.
When is it actually up?
It's July of 2020. Yeah. So, we need to start that process and research and everything. It's a very big endeavor to to bid it out. We did it before, and it's,
It's a nightmare.
yeah, and.
Huge.
And I think overall, they do a good job. I do know that they want to go to Ben's, the big 96-gallon totes that they won the bid in Saline, and they changed over to the big totes. So it decreases injuries as well as employees because you don't need as many to lift it up. And that he mentioned that to me as something, that's where all of the waste management's going to. Yeah, anyone in that business because of, and I think it's better too, because right now we have issues in some of our neighborhoods where people don't put lids on their trash cans, and this is a heavy-duty one, and it's attached to it, so that's helpful. And then it limits the number, so I can see why communities would want to go to that, and I'm open to that. So that's the biggest, it's not a concern, it's a challenge with environmental services that we're going to have to really knuckle down and decide on how we're going to handle that. There's really it's a 2.7 decrease overall from the amended budget, so there's, not a lot of changes to this. Our line items explain every line item in the budget. If there's a change, it lists it. It's just health insurance, as you know, came in, thank God, at 3% instead of 20% that's budgeted. So, each fund on its own will have more dollars than the draft budget. But there's no really big changes to this. The big budget, but there's no big changes. Is there any questions on it?
Just a comment, Madam Chair. Like you said, I know that we're preparing to bid out the waste management contract or waste services contract. I just had a couple questions. How does that work with the new regional waste authority? Does that, I guess you could say, does that affect that in some way?
Yeah, and that originally started on recycling, and, we wanted to include all of the pickups, but Ann Arbor is not joining at this time. So the region shrunk dramatically, but the purposes of that is for when we bid out, we could have, many more units and households to bid. So they just, unless something changes, right now they're out. Lisa sits on the committee, we have a meeting coming up, but it's
That's disappointing. Go ahead,
very
Sarah.
disappointing.
So at our meeting last Monday, a week ago, yesterday, they talked about Ann Arbor City at this time choosing not to join. They send a representative to the meeting, so it's still on their radar. But from what I understand, their concern is because they're such a much larger community, they feel like they should have more than one vote as to how the authority goes and things like that. So that's kind of why they're sticking back. Trash pickup is not something that the authority is looking at right now. It's strictly sticking to recycling. It would probably be 2 or 3 years before they would do that. And as far as municipalities, having to rebid like we're talking about doing, they will offer language suggestions that Doug could look at, but they're just asking, if we do set up a new recycling contract, that we have an out clause. So if the authority is ready to move forward as a group, that we can be a part of that and get out of whatever current contract we're in. So that's basically where that's at right now.
Thank you. And then that goes to my second question is and I agree with you, Madam Chair, with the bid, it would be great if we could just be uniform across the entire township. So with that bid, ask for the 96-gallon totes to be included for each household inside.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
And that's what, perhaps I wasn't clear, but that's what they stated, that is going to be part of the future contracts. And they just did it with Saline. So residents don't pay for them. It'll be part of the contract. So it will be uniform for sure. Are there any questions on, I don't know, not a lot of changes, you guys. No? All right. The next one is motor pool. No major changes in this one. We sent this up, what year did we set this up? Dave Williamson suggested, yeah, that we do that. So there's no major changes. It's a governmental activities internal service fund, which people, each department pays back the motor pool fund, so we always constantly have revenue to purchase new in the future. And it's worked out pretty well, you know. There's a 6% decrease in this one. Giovanna also suggested that each department budget any major maintenances that might come up, because it did come up this year and we weren't expecting it. So each budget that has vehicles has a line item for that, but that's not on this just. And Giovanna is at a conference, or she would have been here as well, too. Any questions? It's pretty, yeah, it's kind of straight. Do you have a question? No, motor pool. Compost is next. Right. Next is compost. Carl Rousey is here. Do you want me to do it, Carl, or are you going to do it?
Well, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the
evening.
board, Attorney Winters. My name is Carl Rousey. I'm the operations manager for the composting site for Ypsilanti Township. It's the first time doing this, so I'm eager, but yet a little timid. So if you want to do point by point, or if there's any questions over the general budget, I'm here to answer anything.
Maybe the biggest change from the draft budget was we bought the loader this year, so that'll change the number for next year. Yeah.
Absolutely. We had
So-
budgeted for $500,000 for equipment, but we purchased a loader, so that will change for next year. Requesting like a $350,000 equipment purchase for next year for 2020, which will be a new screen plant to screen out the compost at our site.
And that will also cause depreciation, and I know you don't appreciate that.
I don't like
Depreciation
appreciation.
line
Yes, I do
item.
not appreciate depreciation.
But that will increase that number as well in 2020 because we purchased a large piece of equipment this year.
Absolutely.
So-
It's something I'm not used to, being this is my first year doing this, so this really puts light into doing the budget. I deal with weather. Weather definitely reflects my budget. This year was brutal with the rain that we had. So in order to make compost, it's got to be dry in a sense. And it was a brutal start to a composting season. So some of the numbers reflect that, but this season happens twofold. Happens early in the spring, where revenue is coming in, the material's coming in. If we can screen and sell off our kind of our byproducts of what we produce, it moves along just fine. But as fall comes in, the second part of the season comes, and we basically get an April, May, June, July, August, September, in a matter of November, really October and November. We get a lot of revenue, a lot of leaves, a lot of yard waste coming in through Canton Township and our own community and contractors. So there's two sides to this coin for the composting season.
And how are you doing on the pad that you're building?
Slow. It's slow. Weather has affected it. We probably stripped over half of it. A lot of material was left over the years, and I've been kind of, if you will, mining it. Instead of hauling it out, we're screening it out and selling it. But we're stripping and selling, stripping it and selling it, and blending it as well. So a lot of the topsoil that's on site, we're blending it with our compost for a biomix or a 50-50 garden blend that we sell to a lot of our landscapers. So it is slow. We're making headway. We're doing a lot of trimming around the site to bring that pad to actually help us in our yard waste, our incoming yard waste actually, because we are getting a lot of yard waste and we need more room. And we have the room, we just have to get the pad done. So it's just a work in progress, and we are working diligently at doing it.
And you also have a assistant coordinator on site.
I do, and then thanks to the board for that, because that is a relief for me. Currently, I was doing this by myself for, I think, 6 seasons with temporary help. With the Canton Township agreement, I was doing it, I would say 3 years prior to that, but once Canton Township came on board, got a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of yard waste that came in. We did purchase a windrow turner a couple years ago, which aided in getting our product to the market quicker. So having the help is greatly appreciated, greatly appreciated.
So the revenue, we really won't, because it's, low now, but our big season is starting.
It is, it's going to start here, and the way the trees look outside, I don't know if you got an inner sense to you, but I've been doing this for almost 16 years, and I can tell we're going to have probably a pretty heavy fall yard waste, incoming yard waste volume, and I see that happening probably a little sooner than it was last year. We're starting to see leaves come in by our contractors, and starting to see it in our own community, and especially by Canton Township.
Right.
So I think, like I said, this is the second coin that we have, the face of the coin. This is where we get a lot of material in a very short period of time.
All right. Stan, did you have any questions?
Thank you, thank you.
Any other?
I was reading a book the other day to one of my grandkids. What's those trees that we hate?
Cottonwood,
It's like there's over 1 million leaves on one cottonwood.
and those are coming in.
1 million on one tree. I was kind
million.
of blown away with it. There's a lot of leaves out there. I wonder how many millions you put together.
All right.
Okay, any other questions?
No problem.
I just think there's just a lot that goes through that compost site. It's just amazing. Carl does a great job.
All right.
Okay,
Okay, Carl.
all right, thank you.
Was it too hard, was it?
Good job. All right. So this, we're going through the draft budget. We'll be, if it's okay with the board, we'll set the public hearing at the next meeting for the second meeting in November. Is it? Oh,
Or November 5th, it's on the agenda to cancel.
but yeah, the second meeting is, so,
So the second scheduled meeting.
yes. Set it at the. Oh, at the October meeting, we will set the public hearing for the November
Yeah.
to adopt the budget, yeah. The second meeting in November. Clerk Rowe, board policy decision? Is that yours?
Yeah, just a second, I'm writing. You have in your packets the newly revised board policy based on the 3 suggestions from the last meeting, so if it's.
When was this last discussed?
Let me see. I think it was June. Yeah, I think it was June, because that's where I had the 3 things that I had to do. One was I had in there about not the deadline to adding things later, but that's only for the unanimous consent was only for, you guys asked me to go back and research that, which thank you that you did that. That's for special meetings. Any other meeting, people can add whenever they want, regardless of whether it's unanimous or not. things to the agenda. So I took that out, and then you guys wanted public comments to be limited to 3 minutes, and you wanted, pardon? Oh, I'm sorry. You wanted public comments to be put in there to 3 minutes, and then also you wanted to place, and I think after much discussion, if I understood it right, you wanted that after the treasurer's report for board member, we wouldn't call them reports, because they're not due, you don't have to do them every time, but if anybody had anything that they want to update folks on, that we'd add it under, after the treasurer's report. So those are the 3 changes that I made, based on the discussion in the June meeting. No, I'm wrong, it was October. No, this is October, June. Get it straight, June, yes.
So the regular meeting agenda just says the Monday preceding the first Monday, next regular meeting, so that's like,
We changed that too, it used to be Friday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
But that was, I think we changed it before the June meeting, whatever. I guess it's just like for comments and stuff, and if it's okay, or if you have any changes, said, maybe next month's meeting, if it's all right, then we'll put it on the board to be adopted or on the agenda.
I'm just going through, because the old one is the original one, right? We were operating under the original.
We're still operating under that one from the 60s,
Yeah, I
or
mean,
whenever
I think
it
that was in
We
what,
had a lot of stuff on there. It was basically
70?
violations of Opens Meetings Act, a bunch of different, I don't know if they weren't in place at that time, or anyways.
Madam Chair, one question, actually, Clerk Rowe. And it's just a way to the reason, I'm not trying to be the grammar police at all. But in the same aspect, it's under section 5, the second paragraph talks about board members speaking, got you. And then the third paragraph says that obviously the supervisor may call to order any person who's being disorderly, et cetera, et cetera.
Is it out of order?
Yep, and then basically by speaking longer than the allotted time. I just wanted to make sure that, is the allotted time that's referring to, is that?
3 minutes.
Okay, for 3 minutes, okay, that's referring
that's what
to
we-
public comments, right?
Right.
Okay, thank you, I just wanted to make sure, because with board members on top, I didn't know if that was like, okay, referring to board members.
No.
Okay, thank you.
So am I calling them out of order, or am I calling them to order?
Wait,
I don't
you
understand.
can do either way.
I say I
I'm going to
call
rule you
order.
out of order. I'm going to call you to get in order.
Madam Chair.
So I'm going to order them to stop their behavior, like,
Right.
okay, I'm just trying to. Yeah, does the clerk have the ability, I think you should have the ability, but I'm not sure if that's in here, that if you want to accept agenda items, you can, but you don't have to if you don't want to.
When?
If they don't make it by 4 o'clock on Monday, and I know,
Right.
because,
Well, that, yeah, and that was really what I've been trying to do, and if that's all right with everybody, I'll continue that. If something comes in that someone's very pressing, I'll say, what I told Mike Hoffmeister this time, I said, it's really up to the board. You send out an email, I'll follow it up and say, here's where we're at. And one is, you could do what you guys did, the majority, I think almost everybody commented and said, no problem. So then that gave me the authority, based on what the board wanted. I mean, I can change, there's a board policy to follow that. Statutorily, we could do it anytime, really. So, but out of respect for the board members, I heard that loud and clear and making everything smooth. It works best when everything's on the written agenda, even if we revise it the same day as the board meeting. That way we don't lose it, it's in the minutes. The public knows about it, even though we revised it at 10 o'clock that morning. But out of respect, and if that's all right with everybody, we'll just continue to follow that process. If the board says, okay, we'll add it, and if not, what the law says you don't have to have an agenda at all. You know, they can all be created at the time that you're here, but that's not the way that we've operated. So if anybody wants to add anything, as long as it's a majority that's here at the board meeting, they can say, yes, we'll amend. They could do that at the beginning of the agenda. They can do it halfway through. They can do it at the end and say, oh, I forgot. I want to add something under business. Is that our, you know, make a motion to add that. And if 7 people are here and 4 say okay, then it's added. So, but I will do, I think that's why you're asking, Brenda, if people want, I will ask the person who wants it on there to ask, you know, to explain to the board why it is that they want that on the agenda at this time. And then I'll just follow that up as a follow-up email, since it's their agenda item, to explain why it is they want it and don't want to wait, you know, a month or 2 weeks, however, wherever they fall on the schedule. And then I'll just follow up, trying to get an answer as quickly as possible as to whether or not, and if we can, we'll revise the agenda. And if it's not, then that person can still bring it up under other business, or any other board member. Like if that didn't happen, I could have said.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, if that didn't happen, I could have said, you know, is anybody got a problem with adding Mike's item now, you know, under other business? And if we get, you know, nobody objects, or if we actually have to go to a vote, then we could do it that way too, so.
Yeah, just want to make sure there was that, because I know sometimes we'll send an email down and say, Lisa, you know, hold this agenda item. We're waiting for the contract to come over, and we'll have, you know, we'll send it right down.
But for
You
us,
still
it's
have that flexibility.
Yeah.
I just want to make
What
sure.
we're really going to try to do, especially as we move into next year with 4 elections, which gets totally insane, is we're really going to try to hold to that Monday at 4 o'clock. And the problem isn't that people don't have their agenda items. They don't have them in the proper form. And so it means I got to go out and bug them for their 4 quotes, or on and on and on. And it gets, you know, it's very, very time consuming to do that. So we're really going to try to hold department heads to get your stuff in at 4 o'clock and get it in right. So we don't have to chase it down for 2 days trying to get the packet out by Wednesday. At the same time, I got 2,000 absentee applications coming, you know, just as everybody could follow that helps. We all, of course, understanding there's exceptions to everything, but we're going to try to eliminate those, get those as, you know, if it can wait and it's not ready by 4 o'clock on Monday, if there's no reason, no one's going to fall off a cliff if it doesn't, you know, or we're not going to meet an obligation that we made to, you know, outside somebody, whatever, then we're going to really try to do that. But it's always, the board can always add anytime they want.
And public comments is going to be at the beginning again? I thought someone mentioned
I think,
moving it.
didn't we say beginning and on each agenda item?
No, that's how it is now. Right.
Yeah, I didn't have anything in my notes, because I mean, they were right to say that they wanted to move those.
And Madam Chair, I just had a comment about the 3 minutes thing. Like, I think that it's a great idea to just have like some basic, like, structure or formalities about how people should address the board, just because people don't know, like they've never, you know, maybe they've never come or done it before. But also just like, again, as a board being, like, I love guidelines, I love processes, you know this, but also just like understand that, like, I don't expect you as our chair, anyone as a chair to be like, stop talking, it's 3 minutes, you know, just to like be a little flexible with that. Like, of course, if it's going on and on, to call them into order, out of order, or whatever, but you know, just also acknowledging that people take a lot of time, and it takes a committed person to come speak at a board meeting. So if they go over a minute, it's fine. 2 minutes, fine.
And we don't have anything that says that they can't speak again. Like, we didn't put that in.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know that's how you normally run it. It's like, okay, we got to hear from everybody else, and then you can do it again. So
Right.
that
Or
would be
speak
my
on the
understanding.
actual board item.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess.
that you wouldn't, that
Yeah.
you could speak again if you run out your 3 minutes, because we didn't say.
I don't think I've ever limited.
No.
No, I don't think you have either.
I
I
can't.
think only maybe a couple times I hear them, and just including nicely.
People are repetitive
Yeah.
and just saying the same thing, and, you know, then,
Gentle reminder.
well, because my position is that it's not fair to the agenda items to conduct business when, you know, you have public comments, and you can comment on every agenda item, but
So people are waiting for their agenda item.
And I'm concerned
They
for-
could wait for an hour
Right.
because we have that many public comments.
Right, and that's why I was thinking that, I never understood why people really moved it to the end, but I understand why now? Because, but we allow them to speak on every agenda item. A lot of communities don't.
Yeah.
Most don't. I've never been.
I've never, we're the only,
Ever.
I know.
Right, no one is as open to me, whether it's the school boards or EMU regents,
All the regions.
A&R, or any of the meetings we've
Yeah.
been to. They're very formal and,
Sometimes they only have like 3 people can only speak on this agenda item. And then
Right, yeah, they're like very rigid, and I think it's good that we've never been that way, and
we could leave them this way, and then like if that ever comes up as a problem, there's nothing that says you can't go back and say, let's revisit, move them to the end, or we can move them to the end now if people want to do that. And they
No,
can
I'm
still-
not saying, I'm not suggesting
No, I
a
think that's
change.
kind of what Brenda was saying in courtesy to the,
the
everybody.
action items that we have to take.
Everybody comes on an actual item so that they can have their business heard first and then people, and that people can still talk on every agenda item.
Right, that's the
So,
difference
yeah,
between
so
us
it
and
doesn't-
other
I know it
communities.
doesn't- That's okay with me. I mean, I could see the rationale if we ever, it really hasn't been a problem for us, but I could see that it could be. Someone could come on an issue and just talk for an hour and move everybody, 6 people are waiting.
Well, they can't because they're limited to.
No, but I mean, you could have a bunch of people. That's what you're thinking.
That's my concern.
You have a lot of people who talk, 30 people talk for 30 minutes, it's 3 minutes.
Right, I hear you.
Yeah, that's all
My,
she was
my
thinking.
personal opinion is to leave the public comments at the front where they are, to not make a change, just as is.
And it's not on the.
Great
agenda,
job.
So we're just discussing
No, it's just like,
it.
so, but if you have any changes, I would really like to have it discussed now and have the board, the majority tell me the direction so I can fix them, so we can actually vote on them and not have to go through, oh, no, I disagree. Let's get that done now, get that done now. If there's something that's really, that you really don't want to see in there or want changed, let me know now.
My name is Arloa Kaiser. I live at 1421 Melvin Street, and I would like to see it left the way it is, that public comments can be done at the beginning of the meeting and yet still be able to speak at the item, because a person can have their say at the beginning and still hear the other people and would like to say something. It has spurred something in their mind or whatever, even changed their mind so that they can speak on it at both times, at the beginning of the meeting and on the individual item.
Thank you, Ms. Kaiser.
Madam Chair, I would concur basically with the leaving a public comment basically as the third order of business, and then also allowing individuals to speak on agenda items. I think that's, been the way that I have known is done since I have been coming to board meetings. And I think, it does allow the public to be able to, again, speak if it's an agenda item, they, hear something about it, and they want to get up and say something about that. As for cutting off comments, I can only say I have not seen you do that. I know we had or have had some incidents with, I guess you could say profanity. And if there are kids in the audience, or even if it's not, that may be a time to say, could you calm that down? But I haven't really seen that. So I think that not only do people have the opportunity to speak for 3 minutes, but even longer than that if need be, in order to get their train of thought out. But it's good to put in the agenda that they are limited 3 minutes, so that way they know that that is, supposed to be their time. So that's my comments.
Yeah, a lot of communities or the county has like a timer, and a red light goes off when you're talking. I'm like,
County.
whoa.
You get a warning, it's yellow.
I think the city
red,
has it
stop.
too. I think the city, I'm not sure, but I think they might, but it's interesting. Okay,
Madam Chair,
yes.
last thing for this particular item, I would just mention the consent agenda. And correct me if I'm wrong, consent agenda are items that we're consenting to or approving or disapproving. And so in here, we have board members' updates. I feel like that should not be in the consent agenda. I feel like it should come outside of the consent agenda because we're not going to approve or disapprove board members' updates. updates. So I think that should be item number 5. Come out of that consent agenda.
Or 9.
I agree.
I'd put it at the end, but,
You want it where?
Thanks, Jimmy.
well, that was my position before, that at the end of an agenda.
I support that. Madam Chair?
Yes.
And just to explain why, it kind of just goes back to like, we're just talking about having public comments and then letting people who are here to speak on an issue, like handle their business and get to their work. And then, you know, if you want to stay and hear a report, then we'd love you to do that. But just to be, like, to continue to have that thought of like being respectful of others' time who are here to conduct business, go on with their bids, or, you know, get home to their families.
I would agree to that. Anybody else? So we'll move board members' updates to after other business. How's that?
Number 9. Oh, no, wait, is there a 9?
After,
Oh, I'm sorry, it's on another page. My thing's weird.
after,
10. Right? I don't have my Adobe. I have iBooks, and it's like tripping me out.
anything else for me to change?
I'm just, Karen, and maybe we can work on, I'm a little unclear on this, calling out of order.
You want me to take it
It
out?
said- Well, it just says, such person shall thereupon be seated until the supervisor shall have determined whether the person is in order.
Let me just say, the supervisor will tell you to shut up, and then you have to.
Yeah,
It's too, yeah, I
just
think, I don't
reads-
know where I lifted this from. Maybe it's from the old policy. Is that, you know, I don't talk like this, so it had to be somebody else's.
Could you just say, like,
We just clean it up?
supervisor will follow Robert's Rules of Order to re-engage in conversation or comment?
Well, that's already there, so I don't know, there's probably something in Robert's rules about calling people out.
Yeah, there is.
So I probably could just delete
Yeah,
this? It
call them
just,
they're out of
just
order.
delete that, and you can just go to that. How's that?
So sorry,
No, that's fine.
and I'm just want to, so wherever it shall, I mean, this, we need to make, there's no flexibility, right? The township clerk shall prepare the agenda business for all regular.
So, I mean, I know it says shall, but let's face it, stuff comes up, so you think
That's
we
what I was
should-
wondering. I just wanted,
Well,
no, I
we
think
could say
the
at-
clerk does prepare the agenda normally,
we
but
could
if you
say
need help
as well
sometime.
as possible or something, I don't know.
I'm just trying to not tie.
Or under normal circumstances.
Madam Chair? Could you just say
Say may.
the township clerk
May.
prepares the agenda for business of all regularly scheduled meetings?
Like if,
We'll just say may, because I mean, stuff could come up. I mean, there's nothing that says that I have to do it.
currently, the clerk's office does, but if there's something happens and they need assistance, you
Just
know,
say may.
then we will help, or other offices.
Or they may not get it out on Wednesday. I mean, that's our goal, but if there's a death in the family, like something crazy happened, you know what I mean?
That's why when you, yeah, shall is a very
All right.
strong term.
Go to May.
Speaking of public comment, Dan is here from Bayou. Doug has written letters regarding the drone startup. Come on up. I call him Dr. Pepper, and it's because of his story that, yeah, either one. Just give your name. So he wanted to come and just introduce himself, and we're still working through trying to get that issue resolved so that he can actually test and demonstrate and train his product that he developed in Ypsilanti Township.
Correct. So thank you very much.
Just give your name and,
So my name is Daniel Pepper. Company's name is Vayu. We have a headquarters at Willow Run Airport. We build drones. The drones that we build take off and land vertically and then transition to fixed wing flight and are designed to fly autonomously over long distances. They are large vehicles. They would take up most of the space in front of me right now, and are above the 55-pound max takeoff weight limit that the FAA has for civilian drones that are meant to fly sort of recreationally or, in your backyard, so to speak. Our drones are built for large cargo transport purposes, mainly for rural areas of developing countries. We've worked with the Gates Foundation, USAID, Doctors Without Borders, and other such organizations over the past 6 years. Our latest aircraft, as I mentioned, are quite large, and they require to be flown in what's called restricted airspace or special use airspace. Such airspace does exist in Camp Grayling in northern Michigan, and we have permission from Camp Grayling to fly there. What we need in order to get final access to Camp Grayling is a public sector partner to move forward with for access to Camp Grayling. And so that's where I had approached Brenda and proposed the idea of a value partnership with the Ypsilanti Township. And we are trying to figure out the details of that right now, but I welcome any questions, and thank you for this opportunity.
Just after, since you have that airspace that you can go in at Camp Grayling.
Correct.
But how do you move somewhere else?
Well, that's a good question. So most of our market right now is overseas. I was just in Canada last week.
How do you get from Grayling to overseas?
We would drive the aircraft. We would have to break it down
man.
into component parts. Yeah. So the aircraft has a range of 1,000 kilometers, can carry about 20 kilograms or about 50 pounds. But to transport it from one location to another, it's disassemblable. I would put it in a U-Haul van or something like that. So,
Dan, you didn't really tell your story and how it all started, and it's a good story.
Respectful of your time. So I lived abroad for 10 years. I was a journalist working for Time and Newsweek and the New York Times, and then came to Ann Arbor in 2012 to attend medical school at the University of Michigan. Attended medical school and decided afterwards that between starting a drone company to deliver medical supplies or pursuing a profession in medicine, I would choose the former rather than the latter. And really the whole idea behind Value from its inception has been about the delivery of critical medical supplies to rural areas in hard-to-reach areas in different countries around the world. We've worked in Peru, Madagascar, Malawi, Senegal, Papua New Guinea, and hopefully soon in Saskatchewan and Labrador and Northern Ontario. So this is, it's quite exciting to be based at Willow Run Airport, such a historic spot, of course, to be developing autonomous aircraft. It's, at the same time quite challenging because the way that the FAA structures its regulations around autonomous aircraft, drones in particular, does not make the research and development very easy. There have been discussions at various points in times about making Willow Run itself a space for R&D development for different technologies. That hasn't really come to fruition. We have a good working relationship with the folks over at ACM, but to this date, there still is the limitation over how you can operate different kinds of autonomous aircraft in the national airspace. Again, the availability of restricted airspace at Camp Grayling is quite fantastic for us. The other alternatives for us would be to go to Canada for flight testing or down to Dayton, Ohio, which I think nobody wants to have happen.
Just crazy.
In order to do that, to be in that restricted airspace at Camp Grayling, you must have a public partner. That's what you want us to do.
That's exactly right.
Madam Chair,
Trustee Eldred?
just a couple of questions. Sure. So you need a public partner, but it sounds like your company is more globally. It's not, there's no local component to it. How would we then partner on that? How would it benefit the township, other than obviously having you here in your company, which sounds wonderful, but I guess I'm wondering why you need, or why the government asked you for a local partnership when there's no, it doesn't appear in this case, a benefit to the local municipality.
Yeah, there is.
Well, so What's required on the part, this is actually a little bit complicated, it involves the DOD, it's DOD airspace after all, and what the DOD wants to ensure is that there is a public sector interest in the utilization of that airspace, not that it is for purely private development, R&D development purposes only. So whether it's through a CRADA, a DOD contract, or in conjunction with a public sector institution, such as the Ypsilanti Township, they want to ensure that there is some public sector aspect, benefit to this technology being developed. I've had multiple conversations with Dan Kimball over the past couple of days, trying to bring our knowledge that we have about drone technology to bear with the township, to be able to improve situational awareness and trying to help in that regards.
The sheriff department's also very interested for search and rescue, even like missing persons. The Sizemore kid that was killed, it was by the time you get a helicopter, well, Stan, I don't even know, I'm telling you, by the time you get a helicopter here, you've lost 30 minutes, 40. And the cost is $12,000 versus $1,200, did I have that correct?
It's usually at least an order of magnitude, a 10x difference.
And so there's a lot of, it's just new technology that has to be demonstrated and tested, and he's already increased the distance it can travel as well as the amount of weight.
That's right.
So Dan, our fire marshal, Dan, was speaking about, carrying equipment or supplies to, like I-94 if there's a bad crash. And, it can actually drop it in. Someone else was talking about the possibility of life jackets if it was in the lakes or somewhere. So it's just the ability of getting eyes on the ground at a very fast speed and the ability to carry stuff.
That's right.
The sheriff has asked for a meeting because I sent your information to him as well. I think what's crazy is, the United States isn't as advanced as other countries. It's taken us longer to recognize the technology, and also the military is very interested in what you're doing as well.
Well, maybe I heard it wrong. I thought it was for long distance. I didn't hear that you could.
It can do long
Can
distance.
be, yeah, that's
But
right.
it could also go over a local scene as well.
Yes.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Even though the aircraft is bigger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I got it. Then it makes sense.
Mr. Winter just wanted to make a comment.
Well, this is part of my attorney report, but I'll go. Dan and I have been speaking with each other off and on the last probably 2 weeks. Brenda first got myself involved with this because of the natural issues that Stan raised. What is the township's benefit? Of course, my concern also was in regards to insurance and liability. And up until this evening, I think I was still waiting to find out if Dan's company was going to be able to come up with the number that I thought was adequate to protect the township if we decided to partner with Value, where we would actually be considered, we would lease the drone back to him in order for his company to actually do the testing and the operation. One of the key components for the township is that after the initial letters were sent out, Chief Copeland and Dan Kimball reached out and said that they were trying to determine if it was viable for them to have drones on their 4 fire trucks. And so the timing seemed to be right for us to try and see if we could match Dan Kimball with Mr. Pepper. Don't want to say Dr. Pepper, but Mr. Pepper. But in terms of to see if, in fact, that would work out. And I think right now that the understanding would be that if we became a public partner, that while the township's personnel, like firefighters and perhaps the sheriff's personnel, would not be ever operating the drone, they would be trained in regards to how such a drone would, they would be trained in that, so that training and the expertise could then be later on transferred over to perhaps the township's individual needs over and above what Mr. Pepper's firm is bringing to the table. we're still trying to determine, this is also somewhat different for the Michigan Municipal League and how they're addressing these issues about how they're going to cover this type of liability. And so their requirements are, if the township owned one, we talk about a certificate of operation or a certificate of authentication, but that type of requirement is not something that Value has, because this drone is much larger than some of the drones that other townships have had. And so we're trying to see if his company can provide the insurance liability protection that I would feel comfortable. And I know that this has required you to go out and try to get some quotes from all around the country, and perhaps even just getting the quotes even today to see if that's a viable. And so I think that your timeline is such that today is October 1st. Our next board meeting is October 15th. And I think the goal for Dan would be to see if the township would authorize us to continue to pursue those negotiations and see if we can come up with a lease agreement that would be comfortable, that would include the training of first responder personnel, be it the township firefighters, be it the sheriff's department, also have insurance that would be of limits that would be adequate from our standpoint. And right now we're looking at a $10 million policy, and which is quite a bit more than what most people are going to be requiring. But at the same time, we're in a new technology era, and so we want to make sure the township would be protected. And so I think that's where the quid pro quo, so to speak, would be for why this would be a benefit to the township. I did see today where a drone found some person who had been living in a cave for 19 years, some fugitive. So not really sure what that's all about. But I do know that talking with the fire department during our negotiations, many times, unfortunately, there is a bad accident. There are people that are ejected or thrown from the vehicle. I know the chief has been involved in those conversations, and the uses to which it could be put to, whether it's a missing child. We just hit a person here in the township who may have, I don't want to say wandered away, but was missing, that needed some help, and was fortunately found, I think, in Rolling Hills Park. But some of these finds are almost fortuitous, as opposed to, time is of the essence, so to speak, especially when you have a missing person, be it a child, an elderly person, et cetera. So I think the technology is extremely exciting. I think it is extremely nice. It would be a nice compliment to the fact that the township is home to the ACM, Automated and Connected Vehicle Research Center. And hopefully we can work out those details between now and the next board meeting. Clerk Rowe does have her deadlines, as she indicated, in regards to when things would need to be on the agenda item. And so it was a little bit more background, just to give you an idea that we've been spending a lot of time trying to get our arms around this issue to see if there's a pathway forward to make this a reality, because it can be used for so many first responder type needs.
Doug, thank you for that, and thank you for your help and your patience the past few weeks as we work through this.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Thank you for coming. Do you have a business card that you can leave?
I can look in my bag.
Or you
and see
can
if I have
just,
one.
it's just robotic.
We sent the packet of information, I think, his presentation.
I want, is his email?
I can just write it down.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Hi. I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask a question.
Yeah.
So does you need any authorization to move ahead, or is?
Well, I think the question might.
Since it says that the board supports it and you develop an agreement they're going to bring back.
Well, the question might be, and I don't know when, I haven't had a chance to speak with Dan since we last spoke over the weekend. There's so many weekends here. I don't know if the next board meeting would be one that, with the deadlines and everything, if we could meet. I don't know when his deadline is. I know it's coming up pretty quickly. And so the authorization would be if it was one that we felt would be the township's best interest, to authorize the 3 full-time people and myself to either say thumbs up, subject to final approval by the board, but at least to give him an indication that it appears it has some level of support beyond just myself saying the insurance looks good. So I think it's any way of doing it, and today's only the first, but these deadlines do come up pretty quickly before you know it. And so, and I don't know how close we are to getting that lease finalized. I still want to take a shot at seeing if I can get some additional coverage from the MML, LPP. Doesn't sound like maybe that's too likely, given the fact that some of the authorizations they require are just not typical for this type of sized drone. I hate to say unmanned aerial, but I just call it a drone. So I think, Karen, that the board can go either direction, either authorizing us to continue and bring it back to the board whenever it's ready, or to authorize the full-time officials upon signing off to at least give him the comfort level that he can go forward with Camp Grayling, subject to a final approval by the township board.
What's the preference, I guess? Was to do it tonight? Authorize?
Or just verbal and bring it back? What do you?
I think if you authorize that I continue to negotiate with Dan and to reach an agreement that would be signed on by the township officials, that it'd be brought back at the next available board meeting, be at the one in October, because after October 15th, we don't meet again until November 19th.
Yeah.
So that's over a month away, and it could very well be that we have reached that comfort level in mid-October, but not, it might not serve his deadline needs for what he has to have. And again, I know he's been working pretty hard trying to get that insurance issue resolved, and it is an expensive policy, I believe, or at least it's more than what they have budgeted, what I'm told, or what I believe.
I think as of tonight, we actually have a way forward with that, with the $10 million umbrella policy.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Madam Chair, just had
Yeah.
a couple of questions. One question, really. You said your company is located.
Willow Run.
Okay. So with that, will your company actually be providing any additional jobs for the area?
Hopefully. We
Okay.
want to grow, absolutely. And we're staying here. I mean, part of the idea behind going to Camp Grayling is to keep it in Michigan. We've had a lot of support from the Guard, from the Adjutant General, Paul Rogers, the head of the Michigan National Guard, the governor's office. It's been actually tremendous, and obviously most of all from Brenda.
Okay, great. Well, hopefully with that, when those jobs come, you'll obviously try and recruit some Ypsilanti Township residents. I'm sure that they would be more than capable and ready to work at your company.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we want to add it under other business, authorization for Doug to move ahead with negotiating the contract? Subject to the insurance, or?
I would recommend that only because initially we were.
That gives him a formal vote and approval that the board's behind it.
We were going to try and make the October 1st board meeting. It just didn't work out because of the insurance.
It helps us a great deal because we're trying to move forward quickly in order to be able to be set up at Camp Grayling for visitors who want to come in from around the state and around the world who want to watch flights take place. Yeah, you're all welcome.
I want to go.
So the reason I call him Dr. Pepper is because he was going to be a doctor.
That's right. Any other questions?
It's a different doctor.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just want to ask, are there other companies that do what you do who have public partnerships in
Yeah,
Michigan or outside of Michigan?
Outside of Michigan,
Okay.
yeah, there are very few drone companies like Value. We're one of a few, partly because the regulatory environment right now does not allow for long-range autonomous drone flights to take place sort of widely. I think there will probably be more companies like ours coming up in the future. I think we're sort of ahead of the curve. But for the companies that are outside of Michigan, the agreements that they have in order to do test flights on National Guard bases are sales agreements that they have. It's more sort of defense contractors. Value is not a defense contractor. We don't have those pre-existing relationships. Sales agreements with the armed forces. So really, in this context with the Michigan National Guard, it's really a desire on their part to enable technology developers like Value to come and try to forward their mission while staying within the state, which is great.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good question. Okay, so we'll add under Other business to authorize the attorney to negotiate a lease with Bayou and allow the 3 full-time official, or allow us to sign it and bring back to the township board for formal approval.
At the next board meeting, when it's been prepared.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, this is just,
Silent.
I'm very proud to say, and hopefully, this goes big. And that
so.
you started in Ypsilanti Township
That's
at
right.
the American
Stay-
Center for
and
Mobility.
stay here.
So, yeah. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. And I do have a card there.
Thank you.
All right. Consent agenda, I just have a few changes on the work session and regular meeting.
Do you have another one? Okay, thank you. That'd be great. Take a picture and send it to me. I'm sorry.
Are there any questions on the consent agenda? I said I have just a few suggestions for the minutes. I'll give them to you afterward.
Yeah, Madam Chair, just a couple, if we were talking about the work session. Page 65, it just, under members present, it just looks like myself and Clerk Rowe and Gerald Rowe arrived at the meeting at 4:30, and I know myself and Clerk Rowe was here at 4, so maybe a period. I think that's, yeah.
I mean, I was here.
Yeah, I meant to say that we're present.
Yeah, well, it says here that you
Gotcha,
got here at
gotcha.
4:30,
Just
but I
clarify
know
that.
we were here at 4.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely,
Yeah.
thanks, Mon. I was not here at 4:30.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I don't
I
know.
was here at 4.
Okay.
Yeah, just needed a period.
Thank you.
Yep.
I didn't catch that.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
And then basically, on page 67, I know I had some comments in regards to, the 3, deputies. I know that we allotted them in 2017, and I know they're working on them. But in the same aspect, I had a conversation there with, Director Radzic about that, so if that could be added.
Okay, where's it at?
That's actually,
Don't
that's,
give me the pages. Give me
okay.
Page 3
That's
of
gonna
the
be-
work session.
That's going to be page
Page
60.
3 of the work. Of the
Yeah,
minutes.
page 3, yep. And then there's one more, and then I think I'm done. Yep, and this is page 6. I know I denoted that the fire department fund balance had increased year over year, so.
Yeah, just for the record, I don't put in every single comment.
Yeah.
I just want folks to know that.
Madam-
If there's something that you absolutely want in there, then when you say it, you say, please include the minutes, I'll make sure it's in there.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
that's all.
Madam Chair, I just have one thing on 76. It says, it's in the work session, Karen, on page 12. And it's 76 in our board packet. It says trustee Joe Rowe asked what the process was for creating a special assessment district. And I didn't ask how to create a special assessment district. I asked our board process because we've had like some contentious meetings over that. So it was to clarify our current board practice, not
Okay,
what
Thank you.
a special assessment is.
Board suggestions.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, actually it was one more. And this actually on page 8. Basically, it says that trustee Ross Williams, yeah, we're going to move forward. She said that Mr. Carlisle works with the applicant, and if it comes back before the board, she would vote on it. Consider is actually, I would consider voting on the item. Yeah.
Thank you.
Statements in chat, we already, no questions on that. So under old business, the new agenda, the revised agenda is to rescind the approved recommendation of the Charter Township Ypsilanti Liquor Commission to grant a Class C liquor license to Herodotl and Nathalie Navides. I'm going to torture that, for their Big Boy restaurant located at 2800 Washtenaw. So the Clerk Rowe, do you want to explain?
Yeah, this is a recommendation because we legally, because we thought, oh, we originally said, can we just change it? And then, so we sent it to the attorney, Angela King, who actually works on, answers all of our liquor ordinance. And she said, no, after I sent her all the documents, she said we legally adopted and gave them a Class C restaurant, or a Class C license for Big Boy. She said, and that's not what they want, so we can't give them another Class C, so we technically, legally need to get this off, rescind it. It means remove it. It never happened once we do that, and then start the process over, which is approving the Class C for Andy and Chris Incorporated and the applicants' names at the same address. But that's the legal requirement.
Any questions, Mr.?
I think Angie will be here at 7 o'clock.
Yes, she was going to come. If there's any questions. Yeah.
Any questions?
On the September 23rd memo in the packet, it just says Jimmy Wilson. You might want to change that to Jimmy.
I'm sorry, what now?
On page 208 in the memo is
It's on the
Jimmy,
liquor.
your information in the packet.
For the liquor
Yes,
name change? Yeah.
just Jimmy Wilson's name needs to be correct.
Good catch.
It says Jimmy Wilson.
Thanks.
Oh, sorry, thank you, just a typo, okay, on the memo, thanks. We'll fix that.
Yumi. Thanks, Madam Chair.
And then on the next one, you still have the same name with Wilson, but this is as if it's a new one, but it's really not because we already voted for it.
I'm sorry, say it again.
The request to approve the Class C liquor license?
The second one? Mm-hmm. The new one? For Andy and Chris Incorporated?
Yeah.
So what are you asking? The memo is wrong with Jimmy's name?
I don't know, it's in there again. I don't know, I don't get this. So.
Are you saying there's a typo? I'm trying to understand your
Go
question.
under new business. So the memo should be under new business to approve the new, is that correct?
Oh, yeah, we just put all the information under the old one. Is that what you're saying?
I just click on the agenda item and, under new business, Karen. Anyways, I understand what happened and why we're doing this. Is there any questions? Basically, they need to change the name of it. So we were rescinding and approving the other one. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Under the next item is request to refund the liquor license application fee. That's because they paid twice, right, for the...
They paid for the one that they never actually got. I mean, we approved it, but they didn't have the state, and so the state required them to put it in the name of the property, which is the Andy and Chris Incorporated, so they had to pay another $1,000. Angie said I couldn't waive that. There was nothing in the ordinance that would preclude the township board from refunding this license fee or any others.
So there's no memo on that. It's just,
A request from them.
is there a memo on it? I can't.
Mm-mm, there's a request from them.
Is it in the packet or?
I think that.
I don't know. Everything's running together, so I understand the bookmarks just aren't. You put everything under one?
Yeah, it's there. So if you go to that agenda item on.
So this is a
bookmarks,
revised agenda. That's why probably.
If you go to the packet under the.
Because you revised it.
Under the packet for that agenda item, it has their email requests for the $1,000 refund.
Questions or comments on that? Nothing's changed. You just changed the name, right?
Correct.
Everything else is the same, and the liquor committee is recommending approval, just like, right, Larry?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions? It's 6:47. Do you want to continue or take a break? All right.
We're work session ended at 6:47 PM.